Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Monday. We are back in action. Keith, I had a great time on vacation, but so excited to be back talking basketball with you, buddy.
Oh man, I'm pumped. I was like thinking about it this morning. I was doing my normal morning stuff, and I was like, man, when we record today, Trevor will be back. He can drive and captain this ship, and I can go back to just being the dude who yaps a lot. Which is nice because I tried flying solo for the 2 front office Fridays. We made it. We made it. We might have bumped into a couple things along the way, but we did safely land that ship. So it worked out all right.
You arrived in one piece. That's the important part. And thank you for helping out there while I was gone. Got some family time in, and it was good. It was a good vacation. That's for sure. And looks like I didn't miss a whole lot in the All-Star game.
No, you did not. And since that's over a week old, we could probably just
skip. Yeah, we could do that. Was my approach to the All-Star game. I'm just going to skip that. Let's do the same thing here.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it already last week on the Front Office Friday show. We had some good discussion on it, and but yeah, it was good times all around. Last week, getting ball back, was really good. Lakers are playing well. Playing well recently.
The most recent game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw all this. You're right. Typical Saturday night games. They get the like live TV coverage on Sunday, but then like the bigger, wider coverage happens Monday morning. And it made me laugh with all like, are the Lakers title contenders? And I wish I could remember who it was. It was somebody might have been on NBA radio. It was like, can we just go back that they also lost at home to the Hornets? Like, let's not go too crazy. They're like, this was a great win to beat Denver, but like, yeah, it's always funny at this time of year because we're in such a rush to I guess crown people is
the best to categorize them. You're either a contender or you're not, or you're this or that. Yeah.
And I think too, we're going to do a standings check as we go later into the show after we get through our news pieces. I think part of it's driven by the standings. There's like 3 teams that have kind of raced out in front of everybody else. And then, then we've kind of got everybody else checking in, but we'll get there.
Yeah. We'll get to that. And I think Luka suddenly looking like Luka is what got people.
Yeah.
And that made it. Well, if this is Luka from here on out, then that But anyway, we'll
that full court bomb he dropped on LeBron, like
oh my god,
perfect. Like that's I mean that's what you need to see out of him, there. And then he just came out aggressive. I mean, if that's Luka fat, then I mean we should all dream of being so fat and out of shape in our lives and successful in it. So. It is what it is.
All right, let's get into some of our topics for today. We are going to look at the standings and kind of take a peek at where everybody's at. But let's start here. Joel Embiid could be shut down. And obviously this could be standings related in and of itself.
Sure.
But I mean, the season from hell for the 76ers. Now Joel Embiid clearly is not right. He's not himself. Doesn't look like the same guy anymore. And we may be hitting a point here where the 76ers just say it is what it is. If we wind up handing a great pick to the Thunder, that's what's going to happen. But Joel Embiid isn't right, and maybe it's time to consider seriously shutting him down here.
Yeah, I keep seeing and hearing people say if they were to shut him down and were to shut Paul George down, because I think that would come fairly soon after Embiid getting shut down. I continue seeing it, reading, hearing people say things along the lines of, but imagine if you tank and then you don't keep your pick.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is at some point, spilled milk is spilled milk. You move on because you can't, if what's worse, chasing after a 10th seed just to avoid giving the Thunder the best pick, possible they could get, which is the 7th pick. And then Embiid ends up out for half of next season. What's the point of that?
Right.
So that's where I'm a little like, that part misses me a little bit here. They actually are playing the Bulls tonight.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you have Tankathon up. They just lost to the Nets. They have the Bulls tonight. We have had no real update on Embiid that I've seen. I haven't seen if he's been ruled out or anything. We just got the update from Shams yesterday that they're consulting with doctors to decide what's best. And basically, it sounds like everybody's like, yeah, this is not going to get any better until we take a different approach, whether that's rest or surgery or
Yeah.
like they said, they hope surgery can be avoided and maybe do a different procedure. I don't know what that would be. If it's not surgical, I don't really understand. But yeah, I mean, they're right on the tipping point right now of 10 seed versus 6 pick, which kind of speaks to the bottom of the East playing picture. But yeah, I don't know. I'd shut them down. I'd be done. Like I would not be chasing after this any longer.
But I mean, we've been talking about it all year, but what a disaster of a season for Philly,
Yeah,
for a team
100%.
that going in had title aspirations. I mean,
Yeah.
they got the biggest signing in free agency this summer with Paul George, and the talk was they've got this new big three with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, and what they're going to be able to do and the pieces they added. And now here they are, and we're talking about, oh my gosh, can they lose enough to hang on to their pick? I mean, couldn't imagine much of a worse season for Philly this year.
Yeah, 100%. And when you watch them play, Embiid can't move.
Yeah.
Like he cannot move. He's okay on offense, and it's kind of like I always think about it when you're watching a football game that's being played in the snow. The offense always has the advantage because they know where they're going, and
Right.
the defense is reacting to them. It's kind of like Embiid knows where he's going on offense, so he can kind of get to his spots and get his shots off. For the most part, but then defensively he has no chance out there. He just looks absolutely terrible. They are on a 29 win pace right now. Like not even going to win 30 games. You know, obviously if they shut guys down, that would then be the hope. The hope would be let's hope Toronto plays a little bit better and maybe passes us the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Because then you get into a spot where it's all right, at least now we're fifth, and it would take 2 teams jumping ahead of us to push us out of losing our pick. But yeah, I don't know. I'd shut him down. I'd shut Paul George. It's not the main topic, but he came out and talked all about how he's getting pain killing injections to be able to play. Most people are assuming that's in his finger, but do we know that? Because his knee had problems. This year he's had groin issues. He had a shoulder issue. Like, who knows what he's going through? And I'm really just like, shut the two of them down. What are we doing? What are you chasing? Because, all right, so you're the 10th seed. Maybe you could catch Atlanta and be the 9th seed. Then what? You win? You're not beating Boston or Cleveland. So what's the point?
Right. Exactly. And that's, and again, the only silver lining would be, well, now we don't give as good of a pick to the Thunder. And that's it. That's the only thing you're going for. Now,
if you're Philly, who cares? If you lose the pick, you lose the pick.
Right.
Like, I can hear him purring.
I know. Studio Stu is very happy that I'm back. he's been all over me while I've been trying to record today. He's very excited that we're back in action here. So, I mean, the one thing is that there is a world where the 76ers in June walk away with Cooper Flag.
Sure.
Like that could happen too. And that would go a long way towards easing this pain that 76ers fans are feeling right now. The way it gets worse is you give the 7th pick to the Thunder. That's the way it feels extra bad. But it's also not out of the question. I mean, given the flattened lottery odds and all of that, it's not, or the relatively flattened, it's not out of the question for them to bounce back in a big way next year. But they've got to get Joel Embiid right. They've got to get Paul George right. And then what does this mean? Let's say they do shut down Paul George. Let's say they do shut down Joel Embiid and they say, well, the future is what it is. Let's just see what happens. What happens with Tyrese Maxey? Because him alone might be enough to accidentally win too many games.
Yeah, that's where I would very strongly encourage Nick Nurse. Hey, Tyrese Maxey, like 25, 30 minutes a night. Let's cap him at that. Let's not run him into the ground here and risk him. You remember there, he did that early in the season. He got hurt.
Yeah.
So let's not risk doing that to him again, because those are that's the difference between playing a lot of minutes and playing high usage minutes. He was playing a ton of minutes that he had the ball all the time. And he's a small guard that drives a lot. So he's taking a lot of punishment. And that's where I would just be like, hey, Nick Nurse, here's the deal. Embiid and George are out, and Maxey doesn't play more than 30 minutes the rest of the year, and off we go. And that's just it. And say, we lose, where we all understand what the situation is here. It is what it is. We're, bottoming this out in the long-term interest of the franchise is basically how you leave it. I don't even think Philadelphia fans, based off of everything I see on various forms of social media, I don't even think they'd care at this point. I think they're like,
No.
fine, keep the pick, do what you can to keep it. And
If anybody
be mad.
understands tanking, it's Philadelphia fans.
Right? Yeah, that's true. That is true.
All right, let's get to a positive thing here. Mitchell Robinson getting closer to a return for the New York Knicks. In fact, should be returning sometime this week, according to Shams Charania. Now, the Knicks, Keith, very clearly in a second tier behind the Cavs and the Celtics. It certainly looked that way when they played the Celtics yesterday. I think they're in a tier by themselves in the East. I think they're better than the Pacers, the Bucks, the Pistons, but not nearly as good as the Cavs or the Celtics. Does Mitchell Robinson change that dynamic at all?
I don't think he changes anything compared to those teams. I think they're still, very clear of where the Knicks are, but I think he helps stabilize them defensively. Here's my worry with Mitchell Robinson. There's a lot of when Mitchell Robinson gets back, but he's fine. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. But if Mitchell Robinson is the savior of your season, that probably says a lot about where your season's going anyway. Right. He's going to help, but I don't know. And can you rely on him too? Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to stay on the floor? That's the other thing you have to worry about. It'll only be 20 some odd games left to go. 25 games left the rest of the way. So whenever he gets back, okay, fine. It's not like he's going to make it through 60, 70 games here, but I don't know. And now with Towns too, he's probably going to play 20-ish minutes a night. I would try to give them some minutes together with Towns at the 4. That worked for Minnesota last year, where Minnesota had a very, very good defense with Towns at the 4. Did you see the stuff Tim Bontemps put out after the game?
I didn't.
Yesterday?
No.
So it was all Towns related. Basically, every metric when it comes to rim protection, he's last. He is the last in the entire league of all centers, whether it be pick and rolls.
He's rebounded the ball well.
He's rebounding incredibly well. It's actually been the best rebounding season he's ever had. But true rim protection, like contesting or blocking shots at the rim, opponents are shooting the best against him of all centers. There's one of the metrics was 346 players that had defended. I think it was at least, I might have this a little off. I was trying to find the article, but I want to say it was 300 or 500 shots at the rim. He's last among all of them.
Yeesh.
Like dead last among all of them. There was amongst teams with winning records, teams that are the best teams. He's last, just last, and all the metrics you can find. So you got to get something. So Mitchell Robinson will certainly help there. I think that would be a big, addition for them, and I think will help them quite a bit having him in the fold. But I still don't think it makes up enough of a difference against Boston and Cleveland in the East. Where it does make up a difference is maybe against Detroit in the first round, potentially Milwaukee, if they were to face Indiana or Orlando, those teams. I think it makes a difference for them against.
I think it gives you the option, right?
Yeah.
That's what it gives you, the option to play big that they just didn't have previously. I mean, Ariel Hukporti and you have Precious Achiuwa and stuff, but Mitchell Robinson gives you something different. And also, to me, it gives you the ability to go back to last season's identity. And last season's identity for the Knicks was, we're going to crush you on the glass, especially the offensive glass. And Mitchell Robinson may be the best offensive rebounding big in the NBA. Maybe there's other guys who can stake the claim, but Mitchell Robinson is up there. He's one of the best 100%. Offensive rebounders in the NBA. So he gives them a different look. It's a different arrow in the quiver to use that they simply didn't have before. But does he change that much? No. It's good to have that tool in the toolbox to go to. It's good to have that option. I think he helps them. But does he change their ceiling that much? I don't like this. Does adding Mitchell Robinson suddenly make them better than the Celtics? Does suddenly make them better than the Cavs? I don't think so. Maybe they have a little bit easier matchup with, say, the Cavs because of the two bigs, and now you could throw Mitchell Robinson in the mix. Maybe, but even then, Evan Mobley is such a versatile big, and the kind of bounce that Jared Allen has. Can Mitchell Robinson keep up with that? And then the health concerns. Is he even at 100%? Is he at 85%? Right? Because that's a big difference, right? So I think this matters, but I don't think it changes the layout of the Eastern Conference. I think the East is what the East is. I think right now the benefit of being the 1 seed in the East is you would have home court in the East Finals, and you wouldn't have to play the Knicks in round 2. But I don't think playing the Knicks in round 2 is an insurmountable hurdle by any means for either the Cavs or the Celtics.
Yeah, I think let's just do the East standings now since we're here.
Yeah.
Right. Cleveland, they're gonna win the conference. Like they're see you later. Like that's done. Yeah. Like no questions asked about that. There. So no, I'm not even gonna think about Boston running them down. It's just too big of a gap, and I don't think they're gonna push that hard to try and do it. The Celtics, after beating the Knicks, 4-game difference, I feel very good. They're gonna finish second in the conference. And then I think the Knicks are certainly going to finish third. I don't think the Pacers will catch them.
Yeah.
Then it gets a little jumbled, right? Then you have the Pacers, the Bucks, and the Pistons, all pretty tight, right? Like that could still kind of go any number of ways there. And then you've got kind of the Magic and the Heat and the Hawks are battling for who's going to be the home team in the play-in tournament. And then who knows who wins the pillow fight out of the Bulls, Nets, and Sixers for the 10th spot.
Which team is like, fine, I guess we'll go to the play-in.
Yeah, we'll play one more game, right? So that becomes very messy there. So I think the East is, we've kind of got our tiers now, right? We've kind of got our defined groupings. Maybe the Magic, if they get healthy, or the Heat could make a real run at Detroit. The Heat are only a couple games behind Detroit in the loss column. So maybe they could do that. So we'll see. But I kind of am really starting to believe in the Pistons a lot more as a team, to the point where if it ends up Knicks Pistons, I would pick the Knicks, assuming everybody's healthy.
Sure.
But I think Detroit will at least take a game or two and make them work for it. So we'll see with that. My last thought on Mitchell Robinson too. Maybe Mitchell Robinson in this role, if it is, hey, you're not playing more than 15 or 20 minutes total, just go out there and go all out. Who cares about fouls? Pick up fouls. It doesn't matter. He may come back and be like beast mode on both ends of the floor. It might be blocking shots and rebounding and ripping down offensive boards and all kinds of stuff, because he may be able to just play completely free without any worry of any kind of injury, or not injury, foul trouble concerns or anything like that, where it's like, all right, I got to save something in the tank because I got to play 35, 40 minutes. He's definitely not going to play that large of a minutes load. I think basically what will happen is he'll replace Precious Achiuwa's minutes, and that'll be, that's your 15 minutes a night or so, either forward spot. So, I mean, Achua plays it that way. Mitchell Robinson will always play the 5. But yeah, I mean, maybe he comes back and is awesome. Yeah, and then you scroll down and we find the Wizards 5 games behind everybody else, and pretty much a lock for the top lottery spot.
Yeah,
which is fine. It is what it is. Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart look weird in Wizards jerseys.
They really do.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, that was a mess.
The team was like promoting it, putting out images of them wearing the Wizards, and I'm like, can we all just collectively agree that they're not actually on the team and move on from this somehow? Because this doesn't look right. This doesn't feel right. Like, we know they're going to get moved this summer, and something better will come along. And for both those guys, can we just all say, nah, let's just not even do this?
I did like the Bub Carrington's quote about Smart, where he's like, it's only been a couple days, and he's like, this is going to help me a lot, like, because he's going to get to practice against them. A couple of guys talked about having Chris Middleton is huge because he's going to help them, just learn how to be pros. So I do like that part of it. But yeah, it's just, and I think we all know too, like, I'll be shocked if either one of them plays on both ends of a back-to-back. There's going to be liberal rest games for those two guys the rest of the way. It'll probably be, what do they have there? 35 or 55 games they played. So they get 27 left. Probably play 15 of them in that range. So yeah, it is what it is. And then in the middle there, Toronto, Charlotte, they're kind of are what they are. We'll see. I mean, occasionally each one can get a little frisky and take a win, but it's just, the real surprise to me is the Nets, that they're still kind of hanging around there. I mean, and I think they're trying to be bad. I think it's just Jordy Fernandez hasn't played too hard to really fully, bottom out. Like it's maybe they'll pull the plug on a couple guys here and be like, hey, you don't get Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton and a handful of other guys, but I'm not even quite sure it's going to matter.
Yeah, it may not. It may not, the way they're playing right now. And I mean, we had that Nick Claxton game winner the other day.
Yeah.
Like,
right over the top of Paul George, who just kind of stood there.
You know what though?
Didn't even put a body on him or anything, and just Philly's just gross. I'm done with them.
In years past, it's been even more like just gut wrenching for these lottery teams. Like, oh my God, we're winning game. Why does the team keep winning and all that? And it's a weird dynamic. But with the lottery odds, what they are now, like you still have a pretty good, even if you're the 7th seed, you still have a decent shot at moving up. No, it's not, would you rather have a 52% chance at the top 4 instead of a 32% chance? Yeah, of course you would. But I think it's made it a little bit less devastating every time you accidentally win a game now.
Yeah, I agree.
With the way the lottery odds are at this point.
Yeah, I think so, especially where like Washington they're just bad.
Yeah.
Like they're bad because they've been playing kids all year long and they're losing games. That they did not directly tank their way in to that first pick. They're just a bad team. So New Orleans, Utah's probably the one that's tanked the most because they play a lot of games where they sit out veteran guys, and there'll be more of that down the stretch. Like Charlotte's had injuries, New Orleans has had nothing but injuries. So those teams kind of stumbled into it. And I think what happens now with those flattened lottery odds for the top 3, you don't have to be horrific from day 1 in October all the way to the end of the year. You could just kind of let things play out a little bit and see where it falls. So, and I get it. Somewhere somebody's going to be like, man, but if we're only a little worse, right? Like Utah, if we'd sat guys a few more games, maybe we'd be, in the top spot and have to get knocked out. But you're in the flattened spot, and we go. And then the last thing, I mean, this is kind of getting into Western Conference territory, but it's half split with the East here. San Antonio's got to really be rooting for Atlanta to get knocked out in the play-in, because that just gives them about a 5%, as it would stand today, 5% odds of being the top spot. And imagine them sitting there thinking, well, every other time we've lost guys due to injury, we stumble into the, a top pick. Like the one year was David Robinson. The next year was, or not next year, but down the line, it was Tim Duncan. Now we don't have Wembanyama for the year. Imagine if they stumble into Cooper Flag.
Oh my God.
Like,
I'm going to throw things if that happens.
Right.
Like send some guys east already.
Yeah, right.
Damn it.
Yeah. Especially where it's like Washington's like, what? Like we did it the right way. We played our kids and lost all these games. Why? Why do you hate us?
I was rooting for the Hornets to get the top pick in that year's draft. So when it came down to it, and there were two people, I'm like, not San Antonio. Yeah, right? Get Wemby out of the West.
Tell me about
it. All right. Speaking of the West, the Wolves are starting to get healthy. And Keith, they actually, I thought they might steal that game last night.
Right there.
From OKC. Ultimately, OKC just too good to overcome. But the Wolves getting healthier, Julius Randle getting closer to a comeback here. Dante DiVincenzo. Look, they're now the 7th seed right now, but only a game back of the 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Wolves very well may finish as a playoff and not play-in team here in the West, just with the injuries being hit by the Mavs. The Warriors have looked better lately, certainly with Jimmy Butler, so maybe there's something there. But I think right now, if anybody was going to jump out of the playoff or out of the play-in and into the playoffs, and maybe it's a no-brainer because they're the 7th seed, but still, I think the Wolves have a shot to really do this.
Hit a quick refresh on your standings page.
Is it?
I think it's off a day, like because Mavs lost yesterday.
Oh, maybe it is.
But I mean, it's actually a good.
There it is.
It didn't change as much as I thought, but this is kind of the important part in the West. I mean, look at the Clippers in 6th through the Kings in 10th. There's a 3-game difference in the loss column. So there's still a lot we don't know. The Thunder, the 1 seed, that's done. Nobody's catching them. Memphis, Denver, we'll put the Lakers in there and the Rockets. That's a battle 2 through 5 the rest of the way. I don't know that the Rockets fall out to 6th or below. I'm going to say no.
They're 3-7 in their last 10, but I just don't know if I buy that that's really what they are now.
Yeah, exactly. Fred VanVleet's been out for most, if not all of that period of time. He's so important to them. They get him back. I think they'll stick in the top 6. So really, you're kind of now we've got a couple races, right? Thunder are done. They're going to be the 1 seed. So now it's Memphis, Denver, LA, Houston battling 2 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Clippers, Wolves, Mavs, Warriors, Kings. And I guess the Suns still are hanging in there for 6 through 11. So I'm taking the Spurs out now. They're not gonna,
not without Wemby.
Yeah, not without Wemby, and they're starting to very subtly start to play some of the younger guys even more. And De'Aaron Fox was asked about his finger the other day. Remember, he was playing through that finger injury with the Kings. And he said, yeah, it is going to be something we're going to have to think about. And I think with Wembanyama, would not surprise me if they're like, hey, we're shutting Fox down. We're going to let him get whatever it is, surgery, rehab, however that needs to be handled. We'll handle that. But I think the top 10, a lot's going to change with the order. But I think that's going to be the 10 teams in the West. I don't think the Suns are going to get there. They look miserable. That team looks like a group of dudes that just hate each other.
There's a bad vibe there.
Anymore. Yeah, it's a mess. Bradley Beal's starting again for some reason that I don't really get.
Hey, we're trying stuff. That's what it is. We're trying.
Kevin Durant begs for more defense in the lineups, and Mike Budenholzer's like, oh, more defense? Bradley Beal's starting again. Like, Ryan Dunn can barely see the floor anymore. I don't get it. Out with that one. So, yeah, I'm going to take them out. I'm off.
Kevin Durant's done as a Sun, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
This summer, he's gone.
Yeah, 100%. Jake Fisher put a thing out today about how the Wolves were really trying hard to clear salary to get under the second apron and make a run at him. There with the Wolves too. Just that update. Randall and DiVincenzo sounds like back by this weekend.
Yeah.
Which is huge for them. Obviously, that'd be big. I get it's not a perfect fit with Julius Randle, but they need something. Gobert's also been out too. So that's another little bit of a challenge for them. So we'll see. And then we got good news in Dallas on Anthony Davis. Maybe not this serious injury, might only be another couple of weeks. Again, like we always say, reevaluated, but maybe that only means 2-3 more weeks before he's back as well. Warriors are playing good with Jimmy Butler in the fold. They look pretty solid. I mean, I think it's gonna be fun watching this play out, night after night in the West, because it's gonna be, like we said, feels like, I don't know, the entire run you and I have been doing this show together, a good week or a bad week could change you 5 spots in the standings.
How do you think, it feels like unless the Warriors just keep winning and the Mavs really start to struggle because they're lacking all of their bigs right now, they've got such great size and they're all out right now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's brutal. So maybe the Warriors leapfrog the Mavs or something like that. But otherwise, like, it just kind of feels like this is how it's going to go. Like, I think maybe you flip the Wolves and the Clippers and we wind up with Warriors and Kings again in the play-in.
Yeah, we very may well. Yeah. I mean, I think what might be most interesting would be if it was like the Clippers fall into the play-in and they get bounced in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Along with the Kings. And then you have the Mavs and Warriors actually get in, because they're neither one of them. People are now starting with, well, the Warriors could beat the Thunder, and all this stuff. I think we're just finding reasons not to pick OKC right now.
It's just because they haven't done it. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's the only question we should have left with them is they have not done it yet. And it's, if anybody could beat them, the team I would favor to beat them is still Denver. I think Denver's the best team, second best team in the West behind the Thunder. But yeah, there's a real world where if you're the Thunder, you have this incredible record-breaking season, and your first-round matchup is the Warriors, and you're like, cool, now we got to deal with Steph and Jimmy, playoff Jimmy, and Draymond and all that. You get through that, and then your second-round matchup is the Lakers. And you're like, I mean, at least they'll be tested by the time they get to the West Finals. But, that's
if you go through Steph and then LeBron and Luka, to get there, there's nobody can question the Thunder.
Nobody should be. Yeah, everybody should be in on them at that point. If you plow through those guys. Where are you at on the Lakers now? Do you think they're going to make a real run at 2?
I think they definitely can. I think they're playing great. There's just strong vibes around the team. There's a lot of optimism around the group right now. They're playing hard for JJ Redick. Defensively, they're coming up with some nice schemes. I think ultimately, as much as I want to say, oh, they're, and I do have them in the contender sphere, not as the top. You've got OKC, you've got Cleveland, you've got Boston. Those are your top three, right? They're a different level right now than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I've got them in that next group. That's where I've got the Lakers right now.
I think that's fine.
And I do think that as good as they've been at playing small, they did great against Zubats. They did great against Towns. They did great against Jokic the other night. I still think ultimately that'll be come playoff time. The lack of size at the 5 is going to be a problem. And some teams will figure out playoff time when a team can really just focus in on you. I think that ultimately winds up being their undoing. But at the same time, like I wouldn't put like LeBron and Luka and JJ Redick to figure things out come playoff time. It's not impossible for that to happen either. But I do think teams are going to figure out ways to counter the small ball that they're playing with, and they don't have any other options. They have to play small. They don't have that arrow like we were talking about with the Knicks. They don't have the arrow in their quiver to turn to of going big right now. Alex Len is, we'll see what he is over the next 28 games or whatever, but he's not really been in. So they don't have the option to change up the way that they're playing at all when an opponent does start to counter the small ball stuff that they're throwing at teams. So that's the challenge with them right now. But I mean, Keith, when I go back to where we were to start this summer coming in, you got to take this season for the Lakers. They've been, I mean, the fact that they're a playoff team right now and not a play-in, not to mention all the stuff obviously that went down at the trade deadline, and just the vibe around the team is so much more positive than it was last year. It's been a great season.
I wouldn't even take that far. I would say where you were like at the end of 2024.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Like before the calendar year flipped over, there was a lot of like, it's not bad, but it is what it is. Right. I think a lot of people are like, maybe, could sneak in that top 6 and do something. Now. It feels a lot better. So a couple of my thoughts on that. I think this is both the good and the bad, right? I think the way they defended Denver was a lot of run and jump, triple team, double team stuff, sending help from all over the place. That stuff is great, like once or twice against the team. Team sees it that second time. Now it's like, all right, we kind of got a little bit of an idea here. And it's not something you can ask LeBron and Luka and some of these other guys to do for 2 more months of the season. It'll just wear them out. They're not going to have a lot left in the tank. That was like, remember when Jason Kidd did that with the Bucks back in the day? And everyone's like, oh man, look at the Bucks. And then all of a sudden it all fell apart because guys just get tired. It's why teams don't full court press in the NBA, because 1, opponents are too good, and 2, it just would wear you down. You're not playing 30 games like you do in college. You're playing 82 games. You're not going to be able to do it. But here's the good part. I think JJ Redick's going to have, here's what we try next. Here's what we try third. Unlike, I don't want to speak ill of Darvin Ham, but I think it was, here's our plan. Oh, it doesn't work. Well, try harder. Right? Like
there's a quote of his going around where he's like, it's something to the effect of like, damn, I don't know what to do when when they asked him about how do you deal with Denver or something.
Yeah. And it's like, I do think JJ Redick is such a good, smart coach. And then, like, to your point, he's got really good, smart players. And that's the other thing too. Like Luka, obviously the huge addition. You've got LeBron, but like upgrading D'Angelo Russell's rotation spot to Dorian Finney-Smith as a defensive player,
mattered a ton.
It's night and day. Like it's not even close. And that's even Dorian Finney-Smith not being the borderline fringe all defensive guy that he was a couple years ago. It's just so much better. And you don't need the extra ball handling, especially not now.
No.
Right? Because that was, remember when they made that trade, we're like, all right, this puts a lot on LeBron and Austin.
And Gabe Vincent suddenly has got to have a big role handling the basketball. Yeah. But who knew? I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the date, but I would have to imagine that even when they made the DFS trade, Rob Pelinka couldn't have known at that point that he was
I'd be shocked
that he was getting Luka.
Yeah, it's like a month difference, right? At least in between there. Yeah, I'd be more, right? Because that trade was made right on December 15th.
Right.
So that would have been like a month and a half there. So yeah, but I think they're good. I think they're gonna be good. And I think 2 things that I've tried to just bring people down a little, just it's more of a, I don't want to be logging into your show post game when people are just yelling and screaming and fire everybody and trade
Yeah.
everyone a bunch of idiots. The schedule has not exactly been tough. I mean, the Denver one was awesome, but there was a lot of bad teams in there.
Sure.
They have the third hardest schedule remaining.
Yep.
So there's a lot of tough games coming. But again, the flip side of that is now you have LeBron and Luka both. So you're going to play every meaningful minute the rest of the way, barring injury, with one of the two of them on the floor. And that's just a comfort level that very few other teams can even come close to matching. It's that's the secret. They win a bunch of games and make a little playoff run. It's going to be because the offense is so good.
Yeah. And I mean, over the last 15, they've had the best defense. I just think eventually teams are going to start to figure out how to capitalize against that defense, and then they don't have that super.
I know you were calling the game, but I got into it a little bit on Twitter with some Lakers fans, just because I was like, all right, I get it. The defense has been awesome and everybody kept everybody uses it's like we always say, it's Mr. Baseball. I led this club in 9th inning doubles in the month of August. And it's like, yeah, you can pick any stat range and make a team look awesome or terrible. And my point was, I'm like, let's just remember in that run where they've been the number one defense, there was Hornets, Pelicans, Jazz twice, Trailblazers, Clippers, who are not a good offensive team. There was a lot of not good offenses in there. So I think they're way better than they were. Because if you had given me that on paper, I would have said, I don't know, 14th, 15th. So to be one is incredible.
Yeah.
I just was a little all right, let's just breathe for a second. It's in just because people are going to be a Celtics guy being biased. I've been telling Celtics fans, let's just calm down a little. They're playing great right now. No, I don't have a ton to be worried about. But again, they're kind of doing what we expect now. So it's how do you reconcile that? But it, kind of, all around, I think, night and day for the Lakers where they were to now. Last thing I'll touch on with them, and then I know we got to cut this one a little bit shorter than usual. People keep asking me, can they waive this guy? Can they do this? Can they do that? Yeah, they have room to make another move or two if they want to.
Two, if they wait long enough.
That's it. You got to wait a little bit to do two. All contracts are guaranteed now. You can't do anything with, waiving a guy and saving any money. Nobody's people are well, maybe Alex Len would take a buyout. No, he wouldn't, because he changed his mind to sign with the Lakers over the Pacers. He's certainly not going to give money back if the Lakers are we should have done something different. I think the logical move the rest of the way, and probably the most likely one, is Reddish gets waived, Goodwin gets converted and signed, and that's it. And you run forward with that. There's just not another big out there that really makes a ton of sense to sign. Some people have been saying convert Jemison. Yeah, maybe.
Right.
You've got him for another year, because that was a 2-year two-way too. So you've already got him in the fold for next season. So you don't necessarily need to go that direction. But I think the roster is pretty much done, and and that's okay. I think it's fine. Because the other thing is, we said it when the trade was made, Dorian Finney-Smith spent almost the entirety of this season playing as a small ball 5 and at the 4. And I think that's how you start thinking about it, as the real backup center behind Jackson Hayes is some combination of Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, tell Luka, if it's a complete non-offensive threat at center, there's no reason he's probably better on a lot of those guys than anybody else, because he's strong and can hold his spot. So you're fine. I keep seeing, well, we got to go get somebody else. Who? I'd rather all of those guys than Mo Bamba or anybody else. Just play small and live with it.
Yeah. I think that's what they're going to have to do. And we'll look at, a potential Dorian Finney-Smith extension and stuff like that. And that's stuff we can talk about on another day.
Yep.
But they do have a tough schedule coming up. They've got that crazy stretch where Thursday to Thursday, they play it from one Thursday to the next Thursday. They play 6 games, 3 sets of back-to-backs.
Yeah.
It's
that's
because
of the reschedule.
Because the reschedule. Yeah. And so they've got some tough stuff coming up. Boy, Studio Stu is he's been starved for studio time.
I love it, man.
Demanding.
To your point too, they've got 2 left with the Thunder, 1 with the Celtics, 2 with the Nuggets, 1 with the Knicks, 1 with the Grizzlies, 2 with the Rockets. Now the good news is, you take care of your own business there, you're going to solidify the 2 seed.
Oh yeah.
If you handle that. It was funny because I did see Saturday night a couple people like, I wouldn't rule us out catching the Thunder, and I was like, all right, like unless the Thunder,
No,
like
they're not
hey,
catching
we
the
quit.
Thunder.
Like we are done with the rest of the season. We're not going to play
They're not
another
catching the
game.
Thunder.
Like
And-
that's out. No one's catching the Thunder in the West.
And your
That's
2
tough.
games left against the Nuggets are both in
Mhm.
that 6-game stretch.
Yeah, that's
They're
tough.
both in that stretch where you're just playing back to back, back to back, back to back. And one of them is second night of back to back. One of them's first night of back to back. So
Is one of them on the road too?
one of them's the second night of the back to back where you're playing
right.
Denver is on the road.
That might be a hey, LeBron and Luka are unavailable. We're gonna lose the battle to win the war.
Yeah, exactly.
Game there.
Oh, they're not playing. There's no way they're playing all 6 of those games.
100%.
There's no way.
Definitely not. And they shouldn't. Like
No.
because here's the thing: compared to last year, you don't need to win every game this year.
Yeah.
Like you can punt a couple the rest of the way and still feel pretty good about being a top 5 team at least, because they're not getting caught from behind by the Clippers either.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you got to run, Keith, but this is fun. Taking a look at the standings here, getting into some of the latest news, and happy to be back in action here on the NBA Front Office Show. Make sure, everybody, that you do subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Studio Stu is like rubbing against my leg right now. He's so happy that we're back as well.
Let's go, Dad. You're
He's
done
like,
with
"Come
this
on."
recording stuff. Time to play with me.
All right, everybody. We appreciate all of you. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.